So today I want to air some of my own dirty laundry, and I'm not doing this to find any vindication or looking for atonement in airing my dirty laundry. But there is many levels to this layer, this exposure of my own dirty laundry, and hopefully people who watch this video will get something out of what I'm about to share with you and my vulnerability. So the last few years, I have been, as an empath, I'm very susceptible to other people's projections and their attitudes, their words, their actions, and I have to be very super aware of how my boundaries are, how strong my boundaries are energetically, psychically, mentally, spiritually. And the last wee while, I think the last maybe, I can't really put a time frame on this, but the last wee while my empathic boundaries have been quite soft. And as a consequence of that, I have seen in my words, my deeds, and my actions, and my thoughts, the creeping in of being triggered, and then me beginning to compile and compound my own trauma around projection. And then last week I had an incident with a dear friend of mine who held up a mirror for me to see my projections. And the mirror that he held up for me was one held up with love, with grace, with deep support and compassion for me to see my own projections out into the world. And it was a really humbling experience, man. I have to say this, it humbled me. His generosity, his authenticity, his integrity, his love for me and for himself, and for the ability for us to be able to move through this and heal. And it was a really powerful moment for me to have my chance to see my own projections and my own hubris reflected back at me in a way that allowed me to understand that I was now in a case where my empathic payload, which had been taken on from other people's projections onto me and into around me, which I absorbed, had been packaged up in a way that had triggered me in my own sense of righteousness. I'm going to call it righteousness because I can't in this moment consider or think of another word that is more befitting than righteousness. And I projected out that righteousness into a situation and then looked to justify it in my use of language. My projection looked to justify it. But when I was held back the mirror, I could see two things. There was a miscommunication from him to I and I to him. And also there was me projecting a sense of righteousness and what I thought was the end result of a situation, a confluence of energies coming together for a ceremonial experience. But also my projections into regards to what I perceive to be funny and what I perceive to be the dark sardonic humor that I'm kind of used to and have grown up with. Because in my life, I have surrounded myself with people that have taught me about self-depreciating humor, but also looked at my own life in a way that, in that self-depreciation, how some of my actions and my words and my deeds and my experiences, now looking back at them, is so ridiculous. And in the moment I was experiencing them, I didn't really think about them in this way. But now looking back at them, I look back at them and think, what was I thinking and what was I doing, and how funny it was to me now. And it was, maybe back then it wasn't so funny. It was more of a bent towards a more egotistical outcome for me. Now looking back at it in a funny way for me, and being self-depreciating about my behavior back in my past, and looking back at myself and then bringing that into a forward context, but it's not really who I am anymore in regards to looking at that humor and dressing it up as being something comical and outrageous and also over the top, in the sense that what I was expressing in regards to my behavior from my past in a way that was over sexualized, over stimulated, over comedic, in a way that was, I was looking for the self-depreciation in myself, to look back at my life and go, look at the man that I used to be, and laughing at that. But the way I was dressing it up, I was turning it around and then projecting it out and into other circumstances around other people that I know, and making light of their certain stages in their life or certain attributes about themselves. And it could have come across, if I look at it now, as being cruel or mean, but it was not my intention. And then he understood that. He made that quite clear. He understood that where I was coming from was in a comedic sense, because most of my humor that I was projecting out was my own self-depreciation, but it was still a projection. And on top of that projection was the hubris that I had towards certain people that I don't know very well, and also towards a situation and a ceremony that was about to take place, and also taking an analogy and then spinning it in a way that allowed me to project out my sense of righteousness, which was, to be completely honest, was unnecessary, and also made me stop and look at myself and at my shadow, most importantly, and go, why am I doing this? What is the energy behind this? Why do I feel the need to do this? Is it because I'm empathic and all of this energy has been, I've taken it all on board with no strong boundaries, my boundaries being so soft of late? Me taking all this energy on board from other people, including the man I was talking to, who'd been sending me some information which was so poignant, very funny, but also very direct in regards to some people that we both know and energies we both feel. Me taking that on board from what he was saying, and then looking to metamorphosize it into a way that I could express it myself and then back at him, not necessarily directed towards him, but also follow that line of thought in a way that took it to a whole new level of dark, sardonic humor. The Bill Hicks-esque, the George Carlin-esque, the Steve Hughes kind of comedy, the Ricky Gervais comedy, the kind of like the roasting level where you take it to a place where people could perceive it as being mean or cruel, but it's not the intention. It's just a joke, and then the truth that comes with that joke, which is your truth often, it can be perceived as being mean. And for me, in my experience, I can see my own hubris in regards to looking back at my experience last week and feeling as though my shadow rose up, and my projections that came out really humbled me yesterday. And I had a experience in the weekend where I was at the ceremony, where I completely surrendered to the moment of the ceremony itself, and I got so much ecstatic joy, deeply affected by the people that were there, who were like incredible people who came together in their own confluence of energies and brought to this spring equinox ceremony here in 2023 in Wellington, brought to it a musical, beautiful, symphonic energy that kind of like from 4 or 5 bands coming together, musicians from 4 or 5 bands coming together and playing what was a gentle movement from a soft energy to a crescendo, and then down again to the end to a gentle coming out of a ceremonial state energies, to where it was like the most incredible experience. I don't think I've ever had a situation where I've been around people who are musically inclined and musicians who actually are able to come together in a symbiotic relationship after not seeing each other for 6 months and play with each other in a state of complete unison and unified in a way that brings this musical ceremonial experience together for the people that are there, and take them on this journey of ceremony, of deep, deep, deep introspection, contemplation, freedom, euphoria, playfulness, in the experience of the ceremony. And then down the back of that, sliding into a deeply resonant, integrative experience at the very end of improvised, gentle, soft music. Less is more, into a place eventually to sound bowl healing and then off to sleep. This is a true shamanic experience that I had in the weekend, but it also took me to that place of, as I went through this experience, understanding, most importantly, what my lesson was in the equinox in regards to my own projections out into the world, and the hubris that I had come into that with that projection, and seeing my shadow express itself, and then asking the question, why was I doing this in the first place? What was the force behind my projection? What was the trigger? What was the trauma? What was causing me to act this way, completely out of character in regards to who I've become? It was a force that was coming through me that felt ancient and old and not necessarily even mine. It could be ancestral, but I'm taking personal responsibility for what I said, did, and how I acted. But I'm wondering where that energy came from, and whether it was a compiling of a compounding information of projections onto me that needed to be pushed out. And it's made me stand back and sit back in this place where I am now and really come to a point where I'm being very introspective and contemplative about why this energy manifested in my life and what triggered it and what was the root cause of this projection. Because it's just not who I am anymore. But it was a part of my shadow that had not been healed or brought to light, and now having it brought to light now, it's given me a chance to look at it and go, right, projections. Where's the insecurity behind this? Where's the need to be right? But why do I feel the need to project this sense of self-righteousness? Where's it coming from here? Where's it coming from? Where's this dark humor coming from? Where's this need for the dark, sardonic humor coming from? Where's this need to be, this righteousness, this need to be right coming from? Who and why do I feel this way? Is it me, or is it this compounding of projections onto me from people who feel the need to be right, who have been in my life for the last year or two, who have pushed at me with their projections in regards to how I should live my life? I need to. I did a video not long ago of someone saying to me, you need, someone projecting onto me, you need. And that really affected me, because even though I laughed at that when someone said to me, you need, which is a projection onto me of how I should need, how they, that person, that man or woman, wanted me to live my life, how they perceive my life should be expressed in a way that they feel I would benefit from, without having the compassion or empathy to look at my life, and rather than ask questions, they push this projection, you need. Was that part of what I experienced, and me taking that on board and then pushing it out into the world, and with my hubris and self-righteousness? These are questions I ask myself now. And I would just say this to the people watching this, who have watched this video all the way to the end. There is a need for me, no one else, for me, to be more self-aware around this kind of energy. My experience, you might be able to hear and watch and also understand. I feel the need myself to be more self-aware around this. When I feel this movement of self-righteousness and this need or more a choice, but perhaps a need as well, moving up through my being, my ego, this push to be in a place of projection. If I'm not self-aware of it, and if it happens, and then I become self-aware of it as it's happening or after it's happened, and if I have the ability, like I did like last week, to apologize profusively, even though that man didn't want me to apologize to him, he just wanted me to be aware of what was going on, because he knew it wasn't personal. He knew it was my projection. He still wanted me to become aware of it with the mirror. Even though that was the case, I still felt the need myself to apologize for my behavior and taking personal responsibility, most importantly, for what I said, how I expressed it, and my experience of what my own perception of what I said to him in regards to my hubris and my self-righteousness. that was important to me, to acknowledge that and to have the apology, because for me that reset our connection energetically. To me, to come back in my humbleness and go, I apologize, and also thanking him for holding that mirror up for me to see my own projections, because lovingly, as he did that for me, he also gave me the space to look back at and to take a step back and go, oh yeah, he's right, rather than being like, fuck you for fuck, and coming back at me in a way that could have been detrimental to our connection. The mirror was held up compassionately and openly and empathically to say, listen, man, I know that you can see this mirror. I know that you're conscious enough and self-aware to see the mirror. How you choose to react looking in the mirror is up to you, but I'm only holding it up for you to see what I'm experiencing from you. You know, I'm not projecting to you what I'm experiencing. I'm only holding up a mirror for you. Can you please just look at what you've said, hear what you said, listen to your message that you sent me, listen to the tone and the context and the use of language, and then come back to me and tell me, please, how you feel about that. The question was made, was asked of me, and that question allowed me to look into my mirror that he was holding up, the mirror he was holding up for me, I should say. And looking into that mirror, I was able to see my own projections, and that's where the real growth comes in for me, to be able to see my projection, to be self-aware of it, and then to go, right, what triggered me to feel that way? What triggered me to feel that way? Was it the compounding of my own empathic energies? Me taking on board the projections from the last couple of years from people, and trust me, I've been projected at and on levels that defy belief in the last couple of years due to my decisions around certain medical procedures, around how I live my life, around what I've chosen to do in regards to living my life now moving forward, and a number of other situations as well. And I've done my best to be as civil as possible, and obviously not take anything personally, because I know their projections. And then for me, I guess in this situation now, it's about discovering where my own projections come from in regards to my own shadow. So I hope that people that watch this video understand and get the message that I'm doing my best to share with you about my own experience. And once again, I can't tell anyone how to live their lives. I feel the need to be more self-aware around this, to be more self-aware in my use of language, my own sense of why I'd feel the need to project onto somebody else, my own sense of what triggers me to feel that way, that I want to project onto somebody else, and my sense of gratitude, most importantly, that this man was able to hold a mirror up for me compassionately and openly and honestly and say, look, have a look. What do you see? What do you see? The question was asked of me. There was no statement. It was simply a question. And that's where the love and the compassion comes into the situation here from my friend to me. And I am so grateful that my friend, my dear friend, was able to do that for me lovingly. And then the last couple of days, we spent time together. It was beautiful. Our connection has deepened in so many ways due to the nature of his ability to hold that mirror up for me and lovingly say, bro, have a look in the mirror. What do you see? I'm here, regardless of what you see, what you perceive. I'm always going to be here, and I love you. You're my mate, you're my friend, you're my brother. But I want you to look in the mirror here and see what you see, because I'm here now, during, and after your experience of looking in this mirror. That's true love, and that's true friendship, and I am inspired to be a better man because of it. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. Mate wa. I'll see you soon.